This is The Last Word. The poet Cathal O'Searcaigh has written his first English book. It's his own memoir, and it comes in the light of recent controversy that Cathal has found himself in media.
How to survive a scandal in 10 easy lessons.
The book is called Light on Distant Hills, a memoir. It's not often that you see a book written by someone relatively young in terms of the kind of things that are within the book, where someone talks about the joy of their first flushing toilet.
Well, thank you very much about the youngness and the youth. This is my third facelift, so... well, you know, I think you can write a memoir really at any age. It's evoking something in your past, and that, I think, is what the memoir is about, evoking my youth at a particular time. You know, it's a chronicle of a particular place, and it was a really interesting place in the sense that significant changes were happening, you know.
Yeah, it's a place and a time that doesn't seem to exist anymore. I mean, you talk about if you're heard speaking Irish, people would assume that you're from the bog, so you better get it into English for respect.
And I thought so too at the time, you know. I thought, you know, because I was indoctrinated with all that, that I was a member of the Flintstone family, you know, and I didn't certainly want to be yabba dabba doing in Gaelic, but then I realised what a language, you know, the rich inheritance of that language, and it was my first language, is my first language, and I'm much more comfortable in it than in English. English is a language that I've learned, you know.
You still feel it's easier to converse?
Yeah, much more so, and I just am more in control, I think, of the medium in the sense that I know more about just the emotions of words in Irish. You know, Irish is my emotional language.
I have to ask you, Carl, in reading through the book in the blurb describes it as a unique coming-of-age story and a rare insight into the making of a poet.
Yes.
But what's interesting in reading the memoir is there's probably more about the awakening of your sexuality than there is about the awakening of your poetry.
Yes, but those two things sort of go hand in hand to a large extent, I think. You know, throughout the book, there is enumeration sort of my interest in language, you know, becoming conscious of words, and that coincided with an awakening of sexuality, you know, and there is nothing like the flesh educates the spirit, I think.
How do you mean?
You know, and I think that phrase, if I remember correctly, comes from E.M. Foster, from his book Morris, which was a gay novel that he wrote, you know, in the 1920s, but didn't publish it until much later. In fact, didn't publish it in his lifetime. It's published posthumously. Unfortunately, it would have been an interesting testament of gay life if he had published it in 1920. But by the time in the 60s he published it, it sort of had passed its sell-by date. But the sense that my gayness, which I intuited, if there's such a word, at quite a young age, has conditioned my life, has conditioned my whole outlook on life.
It's not so much that the memoir,
yes.
when I say in the memoir that the awakening sexuality, I don't mean in the sense of nature of sexuality, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual. Sexuality itself plays a very front-running role in the memoir.
Yes, I think so, but doesn't sex plays such a vital role in all our lives, and to a large extent, you know, sex is often much more interesting between the pages of a book than it is between the bed sheets. And so, but I dwell quite a lot on it because I think it is a significant aspect of my life, and coming to grips with myself, you know, reimagining that time of my life, when I'm opening myself up to the wonder of being alive and the exuberance of being alive, because sexuality played a hugely important role in that. So I wanted to describe it, and I wanted to describe it honestly as well.
The memoir stops when you're roughly 20, living in the UK.
Yes.
Obviously,
coming back home.
Yes, we talked about this at the outset, but in recent years, the thing that probably has you most in at least the media attention was the Fairy Tale of Kathmandu documentary.
Yes.
And you talk about reflections on your own sexuality. In the months since that documentary,
yes,
have you reflected any on what it contained?
On what the documentary contained? Of course, because my life has been radically changed by it. I mean, I'm in the vortex of a scandal, and I was demoralized by it.
But had you no sense at the time that it would cause such a scandal?
No. I mean, I am very open and very trusting. I invite people all the time into my life. I invited these filmmakers into my life. They were my neighbours in Donegal. Now, the film is an absolute, and I'm being very strong and adamant about this, it is a betrayal of trust. Big time, that film. And it is only now that I have an opportunity and that I feel strong enough to come out and defend my corner.